okay, ugly in bed video, but it's 3 a.m. and I can't sleep because just too much anxiety, so I might as well ramble rather than fight it. Yeah, no, so today, or technically yesterday, because it's past midnight, I saw my doctor to, like, you know, try and get some medical paperwork for Centrelink stuff, and I'm super frustrated because she's sort of looking at me and assessing me based on things that I could do like 10 years ago. 10 years is a long time. I've changed a lot. I don't have anywhere near that energy. Um, and like it just ignores like where I'm at now and how much I'm struggling now and how little progress I've made in the past year despite giving the whole therapy thing another go. um, trying so many things, and I'm actually have been getting worse. I know I've made some videos where I've tried to be more optimistic, but I can come up with ideas. I come up with ideas a lot. That doesn't mean I get them done. I mentioned some of this rambling in my Stardew Valley live stream. Um, so number 12, if you're catching up at a later date. Um, yeah, it just it doesn't make sense. And if she does write down things based on how I was 10 years ago, that is not going to help me, and I just might as well not apply for anything. There's just no point because I'll get rejected. So why waste the time? Why waste that extra stress? So what I've done, anxiety, I'm not diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, but I apparently have higher than average anxiety every time I'm tested. So that's a thing. Yeah, so it's annoying. And in the appointment, it was really hard for me. Like, I noticed this a lot when I go into an appointment with a therapist or a GP or psychiatrist, whoever. I can seem like I'm communicating well and whatever, but generally it's only if I not exactly rehearse, but go in with some ideas of what I need to talk about and the things I need to say. And I think sometimes, some of the things that I've maybe, I guess, practiced on YouTube saying, and things that I've put a lot of thought into and whatever. So when they throw me something different, I, in that interpersonal situation, I'm not very good at thinking on my feet and figuring out how am I going to respond to this. I have to like go away, stress about it, think through things, and confirm for myself that yes, they are wrong. I'm not just reacting irrationally or whatever. And then I can think about what I probably should have said, what I should have argued, how assertive I should have been about certain things. But by then it's too late, and so I have to wait until I can get another appointment. So what I've done is because I can't sleep, I've booked in for next week, which is the earliest one I can get. And so before I go to that appointment, I'll figure out what I need to do to argue my case and be like, hey, you can't assess me based on how I was 10 years ago and things that I haven't done since, like, even like being in a band. Yes, I organized a lot of stuff. I was on antidepressants at the time. I was also dissociating a lot at the time, very different time. And then I had that huge crash. And since then, like, yeah, I sort of recovered, but I never fully recovered, and I haven't been able to hold down the kinds of jobs I used to do. Like, I've only been able to do casual jobs since then, rather than part-time. I've never done a full-time job. I got close once, but, like, the way that I've been able to work has sort of gradually been deteriorating. And then, the pandemic hit, and I think the pandemic really did screw things up a lot, because until then, before I had my big depression crash, I was doing okay. But then after that, yeah, had the crash, started to gradually recover things. Like I was trying to perform more solo again, and I was sort of getting a groove and sort of, yeah, making some progress. But then the pandemic hit, and I think she doesn't realize, and it's underplayed how much that has affected my progress, because like at the time I was like, this isn't a big deal, I'm fine staying home. But I realized that because I lost the practice being out in society, I've really gone backwards in spending so much time at home and having that mandated by society, having no pressures to go out. um as much as that is my preferred default of being, it's not conducive to living in a society that would just, like, that's not what we're evolved for. And um yeah, I really lost that practice, and I haven't been able to figure out things since. Like, I can't even enjoy going to gigs since the pandemic. I go and I just feel sad and feel down, and I'm struggling to find anything to enjoy. And I'm trying to convince myself to go to more gigs, but I don't know. Like, I've talked to my brother about going to one in a couple of weeks. And can he help with my younger brother Mikey? Because my mum will be away and it'll just be me and dad. So if I'm out, it's like maybe my other brother can come home and help out with that. So, like, I've already talked about that with him and organized stuff. Um, but I haven't actually bought the tickets to this gig, and I'm having doubts about, like, whether I really want to go. My apart from, like, trying to reconnect with music, one of the reasons to go is, like, um sort of made this connection with someone in the scene who seems nice and was going to try and help me find a band. Um, and so I feel like I should go and support her band and, actually talk to her in real life and, talk to more people in the scene, and maybe that would help me find a band. Um, but, I think it's another one of those sort of more hardcore type gigs, for one thing, so I'm not going to enjoy the audience. And then I haven't looked up what the other bands are like. But I just have these huge doubts that I'm going to enjoy it, and is it worth going to? And, just trying to get back out into the metal scene, or hardcore scene, or whatever, heavy music scene, that's probably how we should put it. Trying to get it back out into that. Oh, it's this real, like, tug of war in my brain. Like, on the one hand, I can see how I probably should, but on the other hand, am I even enjoying it? Do I enjoy anything? It feels like another one of those things where I do it because I used to enjoy that stuff, and maybe I'll enjoy it again. I don't know. I feel like I'm really clutching at straws and stuff. But yeah, no, so bit of a ramble, like 3 a.m., not sleeping. And the main thing I was just stressing about is with my GP and the stuff that she might write. And I don't know, I'll probably email the practice and just tell her to hold off until I can have another appointment, because I wasn't expecting that. She's been really supportive, but I don't see her and talk about my problems, really. I do that with the psychologist mostly, and a little bit the psychiatrist. She doesn't really know exactly what's going on in my life, and I don't think she understands what sort of paperwork I need, and I don't think she understands that it's not like, if you were in an accident and became a paraplegic, they're not going to assess you based on the fact that you used to be able to walk. Oh, you used to be able to, like, I know it's a little bit different with mental health, because in theory I could probably get better, but honestly my trajectory has just been downhill for ages, and I don't see any evidence of that changing. And oh no, don't cry on camera, that's just even uglier. But yeah, maybe I haven't had something as dramatic and obvious as a car crash, but in terms of psychology, it almost feels equivalent. It feels like a very slow car crash that's been going on for years. And yeah, like there's been moments where I've done better, but overall it's a downward trend. And yeah, I think I've got to have that sort of argument with her, and that she's sort of misinterpreting things, and yeah, not looking forward to that. And the things that I talk about wanting to do, I don't even know if I want to do them, and it does depend on mood. So like right now, I'm not doing well, and so I'm probably a bit more pessimistic, and then my brain will change, and I'll feel like things are possible for a moment, and then I'll change again and think about, well, realistically, here are all the things that would have to happen for that to work, and good luck. And I don't know, maybe this comes down to some of my unstable sense of self. I'm really not sure. It's just like, something that really frustrates me about myself is, like as much as I've done all this therapy work and, logical stuff and, learning about cognitive distortions and so on, right? And whatever. Problem is, when I do feel something negative, like the emotion is just so convincing. It doesn't matter what logic I use. Even when I've used the logic like this is just a passing feeling, that logic itself sometimes makes me feel worse, even though that's not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to tell me that, like, just let the emotion pass. Sorry, it's a bit hard to talk with like retainers in. Yeah, you're supposed to just let the emotion pass, not get too sucked into the feeling that it's never going to end. But like I know all that stuff, but it doesn't stop things feeling terrible, and it doesn't really help avert a spiral. Like once I start on the spiral, it's really hard not to just end up, in that sort of horrible. Sometimes I do this sort of silent screaming thing, and it just like it gets really painful. I can't control that, and then when I feel differently later, I can't control that either. Like that saying that facts don't care about feelings. The opposite is true too. Feelings don't care about facts. It doesn't matter how much logic I use. If my brain decides, nah, I'm gonna feel like shit now, there's nothing that can stop that. I just have to like get through it. Maybe go to bed is more effective than trying to think things, and sometimes just like cry until there's no energy left to keep crying, and then you get tired and then you fall asleep. Shit like that. I mean, I spend a lot of time distracting myself watching YouTube and stuff, especially because like right now I don't have any other option. My hobbies have sort of been cut off, and that's not my fault. But like, do I even want to do them that much? Like, I talk about when I get my studio back, but that's just talk. I don't know how much I'll actually get done. 'Cause, like, how much energy do I even have? Yeah, I don't know. It's just really frustrating that I feel like I have so little control over my own mind and over my life as well. So much of the stuff in my life, I'm constantly waiting for other people to make things happen, to get things done, and people are often letting me down. There are a handful of people who don't do that to me, but there's not a whole lot that they can do about the rest of my life. There's just so many things that I have no control over. Maybe like that's probably part of how I ended up this screwed up. I don't know. Just, yeah, like I don't have a lot of agency. Like I know if I was able to work hard at something and get out there and make some money and eventually live like a normal person. That would be the route out, but I can't do it. Um, it just like, and it feels dumb that I can't do it, but I guess that's mental illness for you, is like, I can seem like I'm capable of things, but it turns out no. And trying to keep away from the sort of morbid thoughts as well, that's really hard. Especially like, yeah, no, like I could put all this work into trying to fix my life, but I could also just not be here. um, Although that's, easier said than done, so, but yeah, like, because I have so little motivation, I don't really have a sense of purpose. I struggle to identify anything I really enjoy, for like the list of things that I can enjoy is just smaller and smaller, and anything that I do enjoy, like the intensity of it is so little. It's just like, yeah, I guess this is the thing I do. Like, instead of like, yeah, I'm super into this, it's just like, oh yeah, sort of into that, I guess. That sort of difference in attitude. So yeah, I'm not in a good way, and I try and put on like a brave face, and I think I even convince myself sometimes that I'm doing better than I am, but I keep coming back to this, and this is probably one of the rare times that I'll film when I'm in this sort of a state. This is not the worst state I get into, but it happens too much. Yeah, so I think that's all. Like, you get the point, is, well, I guess, like, having this stuff with my GP today, obviously that set off an anxiety spiral, and I think that sort of thing affects me a lot more than I've been conscious of in the past. But even being conscious of it now, like, what can I do about it? Nothing. Because it's still up to the other person to, you know, like, I can't control the other person's behavior. All I can do is, like, sort of communicate, like, hey, you're someone who knows I have mental health problems and knows I have issues with anxiety at a, sub-disorder level, but, it is an issue. And you're going to leave me on this uncertainty, worrying that you're going to screw everything up for me. You can't leave me on that note. Like, you need to give me something a bit more concrete and hopeful, or just let me know that there's no point applying for things. I can't have this question mark. Like, I don't deal well with uncertainty, I think. I think I don't deal well with disappointment, and I don't deal well with people saying something and then forgetting what they said and changing things, and them not remembering what they've told me in the past, and them not being consistent. I think I have a better memory for things that people have told me they were going to do for me than other people. Like, they say shit and they don't mean it, and then they don't do it, but I still remember that they told me they were going to do something, and so it's just really frustrating when they fucking don't. Maybe I wonder if that comes back to some of the, like, abandonment, childhood trauma stuff, because maybe that's like a sign of people forgetting about me, or like not treating me as important enough, or like one of those fundamental things that I've probably blocked out over time. It's probably something like that. It's hard for me to confirm, because if I have blocked out those kinds of feelings, like, how do I even know what that feels like? All I'm left with is the sort of deep unhappiness and depression, without the conscious link to what's causing it, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird and screwed up to try and think about, because there's like what I'm experiencing, and then there's all these theories I can come up with about why I'm experiencing them without like the internal evidence. It's so fucking confusing. And sorry, I'm a bit preoccupied with this little skin thing. It's looking a lot better than it was yesterday. you know, I asked her about that as well. I think like it started off as more of a pimple, but like a sort of a slow grind one, and then the head disappeared, but there's still like this redness and this feeling underneath, like maybe I had a nodule kind of thing. Um, and I had been putting the cream on, but once the main like thing disappeared, it just started peeling my skin pretty bad. So I stopped using it and started using moisturizer instead, and that seems to have like really stabilized things and stopped my skin from going all scaly and gross. And when the pimple first came up, it was a little bit swollen and painful, and that's gone down now. So it's just like I think my body just needs to work it through. But yeah, I'm a little bit preoccupied with that being there. I'm sorry. And now I've drawn your attention to it. I'm sure you can't stop looking and being like, oh yeah, what is that? And there's a little bit of peeling skin and all that. Yeah, anyway, so that is, you know, my sort of 3 a.m. anxiety session. Will I be able to sleep now, or should I just upload this already? But uploading from my phone is a bit weird, so maybe I'll just wait until tomorrow. And try not to look at how ugly it is. God. Yeah, I don't know, the whole thing about mental illness is so difficult. Especially because, like, I come across as a capable person, and then people are, like, assume I'm capable, and sometimes I convince myself, or, like, I talk up things that I'm gonna do, and then people just don't notice somehow that I just don't do the things that I hype up to myself and, you know, tell people I'm gonna do. And or like people tell me, people get my hopes up. Like, you know, I've had so many guitarists tell me they're going to send me music and then just not. As an example of people letting me down. And so, like, you know, with this girl who is trying to help me find a band, like, I don't know if she's serious or if she's just being polite. I have no idea. And of course, I haven't really heard anything in that vein. Fuck knows, she's probably already forgotten about me. I guess if I go to the gig and play the social game and try to be friends, that's a thing, but do I have the energy for it? And I mean, you know, she's already got a bunch of friends, so like the amount of effort for me to get into that kind of circle, I'm just like, ugh. So then is it really worth it? And if I'm only going for networking reasons, should I bother going to this gig? I don't know, because the whole social thing, like, I know that's how it works, and that's how the networking thing works, but I don't have the energy for it like I used to. You know, I'm so disillusioned. That's another thing, like, you know, 10 years ago, I hadn't tried nearly as many things as I've tried now, and so I still had hope because there were still other things that I could do. But I have tried a whole bunch of things now, and I'm so disillusioned compared to 10 years ago me, who still had hopes and, dare I say, dreams. I'm not that person anymore. And yeah, so, like, in theory, I know I should network. In practice, though, how much has it really gotten me? A few things here and there, but ultimately, you know, if I even think about when I was in bands, the only band I had that was kind of successful where I, you know, applied to people outside myself was Wintergaunt, and that only lasted, you know, maybe half a year. And then after that, my next main band was like Rainbow Death Ray, and that was the one that I had to put all the effort into. I did way too much. I don't think I could have done it if I hadn't been on antidepressants and hadn't been dissociating a lot. And then what? Since then, basically nothing. My solo project, which I do at my own pace, or did for uni actually, and then did at my own pace. And since I've been doing it at my own pace, I've like released one song, and only written one other. And then yeah, AD Destroyer, like that turned out to only be an online thing, and so It's not really a band, and took so long, took us 4 years to release anything. Disappointed with that too. So like actually having all these contacts, like we never got amazing gigs, we just got local gigs. Like our best gig was probably when we played at the Stag, which is now Crowbar. I don't know how they found out about us, the guys who ran that gig, but you know, that was the thing. Otherwise, like having been in the scene, that didn't help me find any bands. And so like I feel like a lot of the time I've fended for myself in the scene anyway, despite trying to play the networking game. It's hard for me to identify what that really did for me. So is it worth the effort and going against my nature? I don't know. I know I have to do it for some things, but to the same extent I used to, I don't think I can do it. Yeah, and like, even with Winter Gaunt, once I was in that band, I still had to organize so much stuff. And I had to do it all myself, and I had to learn as I went along, and yeah. I don't know, just like, was all this stuff worth the effort? It's hard to know, and then, is it worth it to keep trying? I don't know. And yeah, thanks to my GP setting off all this kind of crap. Because I'm doing worse as time goes on. I don't know how she can look at shit I used to be able to do and say I'm still that person, because I'm not. Like I've even made that video as well about, how my sense of self, like I even feel the disconnection from past versions of me. But even if I didn't have that problem, it should be easy to see that things have changed. And yeah, I think the pandemic did damage me a lot, because I just lost all the practice, and then things open up again, and I just don't feel the same things that other people feel about things opening up. And now it's like I've forgotten how to do society, and I can't cope with it. Like I've lost whatever resilience I built up in the past. I just lost that first in that big crash that I had around, sort of the 2016 mark. Because I did spend a lot of time at home, and I did actually spend a lot of time in bed, and I spent a lot of time watching YouTube and stuff, and so I lost some of that social resilience then, I think. And then, yeah, the pandemic. I was doing okay before the pandemic, I think, and then since then, it's been this long, gradual decline, and I can see it's gotten worse and worse over time. And I mean, I don't know if I had COVID, but it's possible that if I did, I might have a few symptoms of long COVID as well, because fatigue and all this kind of shit, that's also a thing. I don't know though, I don't think so. I've been very careful. But it's a possibility. How do they know? How do they know I don't have that as an added issue? Yeah. Alright. I think this is a good 3 a.m. ramble. I should try and get to sleep, but I just don't feel tired. But do I feel a bit less anxious having vented and having organized that appointment for next week? Maybe. I don't know. Stuff and things. I think stuff and things is like gonna be a catchphrase for me. Maybe I should put that on a shirt. Stuff and things. Oh, yeah, whatever the next bit of content is. Bye, see you, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Ugh.